Nathan Vickers saw him was right in front of this donut shop. This donut shop is kind of a meeting place for most of the black transgender prostitutes in Hollywood. This is at Santa Monica and Highland. A lot of folks would congregate here. They'd meet up here. They kind of figure out what they were going to do for the night. On November 17th, the last of the friends of his saw him. He was waving goodbye, saying he'd be back in about an hour. He's going over to Lexington Street, trying to pick up a client or two.
Officers responded to an ambulance shooting at this location. Upon arrival, they found the victim on the ground, unconscious, not breathing, suffering from a gunshot wound to the chest. Hollywood Homicide responded, set up a crime scene, and they're now investigating.
Suspect information?
We have a male, no further, left the scene.
Victim information?
It looks like a female transgender at this time, and that's all we have on her.
I was working the next morning at the LA Times when I got a report very early in the morning, about 5:30, from the LAPD that there had been a murder over on Lexington. It looked like a transgender prostitute had been killed. We were very attuned to that kind of stuff because oftentimes transgender folks in general are targets of hate crimes and robberies and beatings. And so I spent most of the day trying to figure out what was going on. As I was just walking up and down the street talking to folks, I began to hear the beginnings of the story that would later take me through most of transgender Hollywood, the history of it, what had taken place, the mass immigration of Latina transgenders to this area, and of course the effect of the internet on this entire world that had existed in Hollywood probably since the 50s.
It was reported that Cassidy was killed while being a sex worker, and she was shot by a person on a bicycle. And after shooting that individual, it was reported that that same suspect went to West Hollywood and attempted to rob another transgender person.
What we do know is that he was standing at the corner of Lexington and Gower on November 17th, 2011. Just before 10 p.m., a gunshot was heard in the area, and Nathan was found dead on the street. Media covered this murder with great intensity, and that led to the identification of a witness who was able to provide a suspect description only as a black male on a bicycle. Approximately 20 to 30 minutes later in that evening, a few blocks away, which happened to be in Los Angeles County Sheriff's jurisdiction, another incident was linked to the murder. And that incident involved an attempted robbery with shots fired of another person who happened to be a transgender female.
As I got into this story, I began to really try to find out as much as I could about Nathan Vickers. Nathan Vickers had grown up in East Palo Alto, a pretty tough town. His friends knew him as gay very early on, although his mother did not. He was a guy who was very funny, talkative, very loyal, but not terribly educated. He gets out of high school and he's a gay man trying to find work. For a while, he works in hotels, he works at restaurants, he works in Las Vegas for a while, but then along comes the Great Recession. And the Great Recession really takes the air out of his sails. He cannot find work. He's living in East Palo Alto again. He's back home with his mom, living with some roommates in Oakland, back and forth, trying to find a way, cannot find work at all. At some point there, without finding straight work, he enters the world of cross-dressers and transgender hooking up in Oakland. What he exactly intended, I don't think anybody really knows. Does he intend to become a transgender woman for the rest of his life? Did he just try to use it as a way of finding work? I don't know. I thought this was kind of one of the interesting mysteries of this story.
Sam Quinones, when I first met him, he was a reporter with the Los Angeles Times. He contacted me asking me if I would accompany him on the Santa Monica Boulevard to see if we can recover some information about the murder of Cassidy. So he and I went in his car and we drove around several areas in Santa Monica and met with Amber. And she was the one who sat down with us in Jamba Juice and gave us information, what she knew.
Actually, I got in contact with him through Troy, and he wanted to do an interview for the LA Times, and we did that interview. I was intoxicated at the time, but we did the interview, and I met Cassidy out here on Santa Monica Boulevard, actually in McAdden at the Village. I met her. She came out here with her cousin from the Bay Area. She was a pretty nice girl. She never got into it with anybody, never argued. She seemed pretty nice. We helped each other with like food, money every now and then. If she didn't have any money, I'd give her some money. If I didn't have any money, she would give me some money. If we were hungry, we would take each other out to eat. I believe that when she came to Hollywood, she found like a place where she could be accepted for who she really wanted to be. When I met her, she was a girl. I never seen her as a boy, so I would consider her transgender. I know that was like a goal that she was trying to reach, so I know her family didn't know about it. I actually seen her right in front of Donut Time, and like usually, like I said, she was really quiet and really didn't hang out with anybody. But that night, she was like really happy for some reason. She was like full of like life, spirit. Her spirits were really high, and she walked up to me and a couple of my friends, and she told us that she wanted to take us to where she was staying in Watts. And like a couple of hours later, the police came by and said that there was a murder off of Lexington and Gower. And then the next day, the detectives had like her mugshot, and they were showing us, and they were telling us who exactly it was that got murdered.
This strip mall at Highland and Santa Monica, where the Donut Time donut shop was in the geography of Santa Monica Boulevard, the hangout for black transgender hookers. They would usually hang out in front here, hang out over there. A lot of them would sleep from time to time in what used to be that blackened building back there. Used to be a pornographic bookstore. They had little video booths where you could watch porno films. The guys would sleep in those cubicles there a lot, or they'd sleep in bushes that were farther down Santa Monica or up on Highland. This was the meeting place. They would meet each other here. They would get to know each other here. A lot of them, of course, went by nicknames. No one really knew each other by the names that their own families knew them.
The next day was when they actually passed out the flyers with her mugshot and stuff on it. So they were out here like the whole night, the night that she got murdered, but they were giving us her government name and nobody really knew who that was. So it was kind of confusing people. and nobody really understood or knew who they were talking about until they handed out the mugshot.
From that point on, flyers were made of Cassidy, and I went out in the community posting them in businesses, trying to get information on the suspect.
The Western Bandit is the suspect. The Western Bandit has been linked to, in total, 20 crimes. One of those, Nathan's murder. The 19 others, the majority are robberies or attempted robberies, some of them just shootings. This individual has acted in a very dangerous manner, very reckless. Oftentimes during the robberies, he's not giving the victim enough time to even provide them with what he's demanding. He's shooting. Luckily, no others have been killed during these incidents, but there's been a lot of people injured, and he's a very dangerous individual.
This place was overwhelmed in LAPD patrol cars. They came from every direction and inundated the area. And what they wanted to do was pass around a picture of Nathan Vickers to all the folks that they didn't want anybody running off, because they knew it was going to be a very dicey case. He was a transgender hooker, could be from anywhere, could be anybody. And they figured the only place, the closest place they knew to check was Donut Time Donut Shop, which was a big hangout for black transgender hookers on Santa Monica Boulevard. A few blocks from here is Lexington Avenue. Lexington Avenue has a kind of a storied history in the history of transgender hooking in Hollywood. For a long time, through the 80s and 90s, it was this huge hooking place where it was like dozens and dozens of transgender hookers all day long, all night long. They would be in like clumps, and you'd have like the full ecosystem of transgender hooking there. You'd have the most dazzling looking women down to guys who really weren't passing for women at all. And the only hooking that really takes place on Lexington now is during the day, some Latina hookers walking their dogs. They all walk dogs. That's kind of like the sign up and down Lexington during the day. At night, it's a place for only the homeliest, the transgender hookers who really don't look like women at all, and whose looks would not bear scrutiny under the lights of Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yeah, I heard what happened.
What did you hear?
I heard it get shot. It gets shot just like that. These people just shot like that. So what? Or what?
Do you ever feel afraid out here?
Yes, you know, I never do nothing wrong. I think so. I'm not angel neither, right? But I'm not worried about it to turn around and somebody give me shot because I'm not scared from nobody. I always never think about it like that.
Where did you come from?
I'm from Mexico City.
How do you feel about this life?
I feel for my life it's a lot hard to live like that. More hard than anybody's life. Yeah, because I've been like this all my life, so it's around to thinking about it. How hard is this life? It's really, really hard. Like I cannot even believe myself. I live all these years like that, you know. It's really hard, really hard.
How do people treat you?
People, you know, and I got the much. People treat me good, but always something is making comfortable because you know you're different. But something, no matter how you're beautiful, how you female, wherever you look, you know something is making comfortable everywhere you go, and especially me because I've been here in California for too many years, and I've been all my life, 40 years, all I got by myself, and nobody helped me, not even stay, nobody always live like this. I had to eat. And something happened to me right now, that nobody knows nothing to me because I never even my family, nothing like that. So
It kind of sucks because, like, it seems like when a transgender person dies in Hollywood, like, nothing ever really happens. And, like, they forget that there's people that still care about us and the people that are still out here, so it sucks.
It was difficult doing this particular fundraiser because she was African American. And it's sad to say that the city of Los Angeles was not on fire. They were not on fire because her hair or her wig wasn't straight enough. You know, her eyes wasn't light enough. Her skin color wasn't brown enough. So the city really wasn't on fire. So when I went to the Transgender Day of Remembrance, where they remember those that died of hate crimes, when I went to take the stage, they told me no. And it really disturbed me because that was the time when we could have raised money for the family. But they told me no. So then, about a week or so later, we had a visual. So we totaled about $500 to give to the family. But that was with effort. And typically speaking, if Cassidy was a different race, we would have raised money at that Transgender Day of Remembrance, and we would have got more than $500 for that family. How upsetting is that?
As I began to interview people who knew him, both people here and people up in East Palo Alto where he was originally from, and at each spot you would get a different picture of who Nathan Vickers was. Some people, like folks down here, didn't even know him as Nathan. They knew her as Cassidy Vickers. The friends up in Palo Alto and Oakland knew him as Nathan Vickers, someone that they swore would never cross-dress and was not a transgender person and never wanted surgery, but simply was if he was cross-dressing, it was entirely an economic choice, that he had no other opportunity to make money, and this was his way of making money. I spoke with his mother, who knew nothing about this world and her son's involvement in it. She just thought he was a gay man who had trouble finding work and really didn't know anything about his life on the street. So at each place she found a different idea of who this guy was and what he was trying to become, or who he had been. And it was a very complicated thing. I found he had 3 nicknames. He had 2 Facebook accounts. He had IDs from, I think, 3 or 4 different cities. It was like you're trying to find this ghost, this shadow. You didn't really know who he was. He may not actually, in fact, have known who he was. It was a classic Hollywood story, I thought. People come here, have been coming here to become stars for decades now. Mostly that's a Hollywood story that ends badly. Not like the Hollywood movies. You know, the classic Hollywood story does not end well. It ends up someone working tables, an alcoholic, trying to find some kind of path to stardom. They end up on the streets. This was a little bit like that. It was a story about a guy who came here looking to be something else because what was happening for him up north in Northern California wasn't working for him. And he gravitated towards cross-dressing, transgender hooking, and ended up dead on the street. Investigated by police officers who had no idea who he was, surrounded by people who had no idea who he was, and befriended on the street in front of this donut shop right here by people who never knew his real name.
It's a very sad story. Some of these people coming out in hopes of becoming actors, models, anything like that. Things don't come easy in life. Whether you're hoping that something magically is going to happen when you come out to Hollywood and ending up on the streets addicted to drugs. Very sad stories out there.
I think people have a misconception about Hollywood. They think lights, camera, action, glitz, glamour, and what they really don't know is not like a place to come and live out your dreams or anything. They don't know the actual truth about Hollywood, which is that it's a pretty dangerous place. It's infested with drugs, prostitution, gangs. Those are things that we don't see on TV or in the movies. So I think that's why these people are misled. But I mean, a lot of bad things happen. A lot of people die out here. Nobody really sees this stuff because it never gets too public. It's probably played on the news once or twice, and then it's a dead issue after that. And there's really no justice or anything for anybody. I've lost a lot of friends out here. I've almost lost my life out here a couple of times, and it's just a scary place, and I don't recommend it for anybody.